Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today I'm going to answer the question, what is a beat truly? What separates a musician from a music producer? What separates a simple loop player from a loop maker, from a beat maker, from a music producer? It really comes down to four elements that make up a beat. So most composers are good at making chords, and they'll play stuff like this, where it's like very music based, which most music is musically rich. Then they'll do, more gospel-y styles like this. But what separates that person from a Scott Storch or a Metro Boomin or a Dr. Dre even? Why are those people different, getting different results than the top producers? It comes down to four layers. So the first layer, and it's a nice day outside, I have the window open, so if you hear background noise, that's why. The first layer that we start with is called the harmony layer. So harmony, in my opinion, is the glue of a track. It's the where are we going in this song. It's guiding the song in an energetic direction. Okay, so it's guiding our ear in an energetic way. Okay, so there's four layers. The top line layer is your memorable melody. So think of this. We're going to play a D minor ninth chord. Okay, so that memorable melody, the top line is just emotion through usually the highest notes in your chord progression, because really we're playing a D minor ninth chord. So the melody is just simply moving through the notes of the chord. So it goes root third seven, root third seventh, root third ninth, 10th, 5th, 6th, and then back to the root. So it's a motion. So the chord is the structure, like a house. The melody is like guiding somebody through your house in a way, I guess is a different way to think about it. It's like giving them a personal tour. Whereas the structure of the house, the chord progression can take people, from the kitchen to the living room to the basement to the whatever. So that's what the chord progression is doing. It's like, here's the kitchen, here's the, living room, here's the foyer, here's the front door, here's the garage, here's the master bedroom type of thing. So all those chords are rooms in a house, whereas the structure of the house is the glue to whatever you're about to do. In the top line, I know this analogy is kind of crazy, but the top line is simply a motion through the house. It's like your tour. Are you going to go to the master bedroom first? Are you going to show them the garage first? You're going to show them the basement first? So that's how we think about moving through chords to create melody. Now, underneath the house, you have what's called a foundation. And that's what I call the contrast layer. The point of the contrast layer is to create a difference. Now birds want to chirp and people with the sirens going off as soon as I start this video. Okay, but the contrast layer is the foundation of the house. Okay, this is your contrast. This is what makes Scott Storch's stuff so dope. Okay, so we have high frequency stuff, low frequency stuff. That creates a contrast. Okay, so basically what the contrast layer does, it can be a bass line, it can also be a counter melody, but what it does is it adds density to your track. So I can play a chord progression just like this, but it's very it doesn't have energy to it. So what if I add that contrast layer? I think the birds want to join in on this beat, I think. Okay, so now the last layer is called the rhythm layer. So as a recap, we have the top line, which is the memorable melody. We have the harmony section, which is our chords. We have the contrast layer, which is usually our bass, but it can also be a counter melody. And the fourth thing is rhythm. So what usually separates, composition from, simply making beats is the rhythm part. People who compose usually just focus on the musicality. They don't focus on the drum and the timing parts. So just simply adding this drum in FL Studio, for example. Okay, this is a drum break from Tammuz. Shout out to Tammuz. And let's create like something. Let's make this into something. Let's record some chords. So we're gonna see what kind of vibe is the rhythm giving us. That bird wants to outshout me today, I guess. So if we're going dark, we're gonna, hit those root notes. Let's do a minor chord and then suspended chord. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, now with these 4 layers, you have to give room for the other layers. If you don't leave room, you're gonna have overlapping, and it's what creates clashing in your beat. Okay, let me pause this video to close this window. Again, so what separates, producers, in my opinion, from compositional people or like loop makers and different things like that, it's the main rhythm. Okay, so here's the drum break, just adding that drum break. And now let's record a chord progression. In this case, the vibe the drums are giving me is more New York style. So we're gonna go gritty, like Havoc slash Mobb Deep type. Okay, so let's record some chords. We're gonna do D minor into D suspended second. Okay, so we're setting the tone. Now we're doing 2 layers here. We're doing the harmony section and the contrast because of that bass. Okay, and then I went to A minor there at the end. Okay, so that is, what I just played is a contrast layer and the harmony section. So really this should be labeled as such, harmony slash contrast. So we already took up 3 of the layers. We have rhythm, harmony, and contrast. What people will do is they don't realize they've already created the contrast layer and they'll go in and add a bass. Now, luckily my sounds from Hercules, they can fit over top of other stuff. You're not gonna have a lot of clashing because I did the sound design. This has 340 sounds from bass to bells to brass to guitar, keys, leads, pads, amp-plugs, and you get my other plugin called Hypnos for a limited time with Hercules, which has another 100+ sounds. So you get 400 something sounds for the price of 1 plugin. Go to busyworksbeats.com/Hercules for that. So now let's add our bass line. Let me turn off my keyboard here. Okay, so here's my bass sound from Hercules. We're gonna add this in as a contrast layer. Now, anytime you hear clashing, it's because we have the bottom end of the piano fighting against bass. Okay, so let's add a bass line in here. Redo that because I was thinking too much. All right, so as you guys can see, now we're creating a full-on production here, whereas composition is just the musicality for the most part. Okay, so that is what creates a full beat. Whereas just doing the music, if I took out any one of these sections, would it be considered a beat? Maybe part of a beat. Okay, so let's open up this piano. And you guys can probably hear that clashing. I do. It's right on that second hit. So let's just take out the low end, or we could just redo the piano to where we're not playing the bass. That's the best solution, is to remove the frequency conflict itself. So now we're gonna go back to the drawing board. Knowing these 4 components, we're only going to play the top end. Oh, sorry, let me turn off my MIDI. There we go. So now we're only gonna play the top end now that we have our own bass. Let me go back again, see how what producers have to go through. We have to go through the rhythm one more time. All right, let's do this again. So now we're playing just the harmony because we have the contrast layer here. So now we got to fill in the harmony, okay, what we had before. So these 4 components are super vital. I don't know how I went back to pattern 3, but whatever. See how it cleared up? There's no clashing with the bass anymore. Okay, so now we have that. So it's all about these 4 layers and organizing these layers. I could take this further to teach you guys about the expression layers, but that might be a little too much for today. But basically what you can do is copy all of these layers and then add an expression layer over top of that. So this would be stuff like, for the harmony expression, you might do pitch bends with your chords, or for the contrast expression, you might do 808 slides and bass slides and pitch diving. For the rhythm expression layer, you might do hi-hat rolls or drum fills. So this is your expressive layer to layer over top of those four main components. So this is why it comes down to, formulaic approach, because once you understand music is this simple, you can start creating more full compositions and arrangements, because now you can mix and match these pieces. So all we need now is a top line. Now again, a top line does not need to be the same instrument, but in this case, we're going to use a piano just because it's easier. So the top line usually is a memorable melody. We usually work in threes, and we work in, if you're stuck with this, you could use the pentatonic scales. I don't want to bore you guys to tears about that, but work in three increments of threes. Let's do something like dun, 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 just to keep it simple. I don't know why we're having clashing here. Let me turn off my MIDI. Okay. But this is the difference between a producer and, all the other roles that we're talking about. Not that anyone is better or worse. Let's do a higher octave there. So top line means on top of. Okay, so that third note is clashing with the chord. So now we have to problem solve and figure out, I do want it to go. But now the top line is not matching up with the chord for the harmony. So this is why all these working pieces. So I'll just do downward arpeggio. Okay, so now we're adding the top line attitude. Okay, so now we have a full on. Now, if that were the beat, that could be the full composition, but over time you want to create changes. Let me show you guys what a pitch slide for a piano would sound like. So you could do West Coast stuff like this. So this would be your harmony expression layer, for example. Might as well show you guys the entire process now that you guys have made it this far. So to take your, productions to a different level, this is where you think of sound selection. It all comes down to these four layers. And this is how it goes from a simple concept to a full-on production. So now we're adding a harmony expression layer, playing the same chords. So to me, expression is either harmonics or pitch glides or pitch movements, or simply playing stuff faster. So that's what stands out as an expression versus just playing something normally. So we're just filling the four categories. Now let's do the same. So an expressive top line might be just playing glissando style. Okay, so it's just a little more flair to it instead of just playing the notes straight out. Okay, so that would be the expressive top line layer. And doing little slides like that. Just concepts like this. Okay, so that's just the background stuff to keep the ear engaged over time. Does not need to be the loudest thing though, so we can turn this down. Okay, so now we need a contrast expression. Now here's where you may use a counter melody. I don't have all my instruments loaded up, so that would take a little bit of time. So now we have an outline for a beat just like that. So that's what separates a beat from a simple composition or a simple loop or a simple, musician approach to music. I know that was like a real, I didn't expect to even go that deep with it, but it really comes down to 4 layers. Again, the top line is your memorable melody. Harmony section is your chords, which is your glue to your track. The contrast layer is the density to your track, usually a bass or a counter melody. And then you have the rhythm section. Those 4 things make up a beat. If you want to learn more, just go to busyworksbeats.com/producerpath. I'll leave a link below so you guys can learn music production from the ground up, every single step. All right, guys, peace.